So this is not an order of service, okay? These are elements that you should include. And how you order them is somewhat up to you. Some of them are really obvious, like this first one. I think you should have a captivating opener. So this should be the very first thing in your service. The captivating opener, it can vary. It could be very simple. It could be in the dark, just one voice, a song, a scripture. It could be a full band, full bright lights, loud. But hear me, this is not the welcome. This is the primer. This sets the stage. This immediately determines whether or not your crowd is engaged and attentive. Start well, end well. The stuff in the middle, you got a little bit more grace with, but you need to begin and end well. So this is not your pastor standing up with normal lights on saying, Merry Christmas. No, 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 no. Do not do that or we can't be friends. Okay? Do not do this. Picture this instead. Turn off all the lights. Have complete silence. Let that just sit. Build excitement and anticipation. And then maybe what they see is a person that strikes a match. They would hear that. They would hear the strike of the match. Then they would see the lighting of the candle. Maybe you play the sound of a newborn baby crying or a sheep baying. Captivate your audience, your crowd, right away. Right away, you are communicating to them, we know this is a special night. We know that we have guests in the room and we have given special thought. After this captivating opener, again, it could be a song, a poem, a scripture. After that, then you welcome all. You have visitors who have never been there before, and you have regulars who are there every time the doors are open. Neither group should feel more or less welcome. All are welcome. Watch the language that you use. Make sure that it is very relatable and relational. I think at some point in every Christmas Eve service, you need to acknowledge grief. Life is hard. And at this most wonderful time of the year, someone in your crowd is trying hard to hold it all together. They're maybe in a really hard stage of parenting. It's probably someone's first Christmas without a parent, without a spouse, without a child. For years, my husband and I struggled with infertility. I am out of that now. My two kids, adopted, 22 years old, 19 years old. I haven't felt the pain of infertility for a number of years now. However, for probably 15 years, every Christmas Eve for me was where I felt that pain the most raw and deep, because to me, it would have been the most perfect to be pregnant during Christmas Eve. That's what I thought just would have been the most ideal. And so every Christmas Eve service that came around for probably 15 years felt also like just another year that my dream hadn't come true. Acknowledge grief. Sing together. And I think you should probably also have a special song. I think you should have a fast song, a slow song, an old song, and a new song. Kind of like when you get married, something borrowed, something blue, that kind of thing. Fast, slow, old, new. Music is so important. Music softens the hardest of hearts. It removes barriers, especially songs that are carefully chosen. And I will give you a few of my favorite song choices towards the end. I think you should pray at least once in the service. Again, be aware of your audience. Don't make it too long. Be careful about your language. Don't begin to preach in it. Just talk to God. Avoid those church words. And give your people a moment to also silently offer their own prayer. Guide them in that. Help them to be able to enter into a personal prayer of their own. I think you need to have at least one child-friendly element, or better yet, you need to add child-friendly bits to most of your elements. You can have a fun animated video. If you have kids taking part, this is great because kids like to look at other kids. A live animal is golden. Can you get a baby lamb or a goat, even a puppy or a kitten, a real baby? Figure out ways to put these in because these are captivating elements for the kids in your crowd. If you have only one child-friendly element, consider very carefully your timing on this. Don't do it right away. Wait at least halfway through or closer to the end when the kids are getting restless. If you consider kids throughout your whole service, you can do things like at least one of your songs can be more upbeat where there's dancing and actions, or you're clapping and you're encouraging that sort of engagement. You could hand out gifts that are wrapped or treats as part of the message. So as the message is given, which is the most boring part, hate to break it to you, for the children, the kids can open maybe a wrapped present to reveal the next point in the message. Stuff like a piece of straw so they can touch it, they can smell it. Maybe a soft piece of fabric, a little toy donkey. Obviously, hand out candy canes or suckers. Keep their little mouths busy. My mom used to always say, use tiny mini marshmallows. Now, I know that could be a choking hazard, so you can do it with it what you want. The reason behind the marshmallow.
Wow.
I only had one yellow sheet there, and I went, oh, okay, there's another one. But it's falling off the top there.
Nope. Have a good one.
Marshmallow piece is that we went to a church that had hard floors. So some of the moms would bring hard candies, and when those spill, they make a loud noise. Give them a quiet thing so that if it falls, it's quiet. It's not a big distraction. But no matter what, show the parents of young children that you thought of them and that you understand how hard it is to keep a 2-year-old quiet for 1 hour. Let the little children come and do not hinder them. I think that one of the elements you need in every Christmas Eve service is to have voices of every age, young and old, and as much diversity as you can. For example, if we take that familiar passage of Luke chapter 2, verse 8 to 14, right? And there were in the same regions shepherds out in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were filled with great fear. And the angel said to them, fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people, right? You know the passage. So you think about that being read or spoken by some of the voices that for the regulars, they hear all the time. Your pastor, maybe your main worship leader, or the person who often does your announcements. That voice will not have as much impact as if you find a 10-year-old to say that verse, or an 85-year-old whose voice just tremors a little. These things that are so familiar that we can recite in our sleep, they take on fresh beauty when a different voice is the one who speaks it. This is so simple. This is why I said this isn't rocket science, and yet somehow we forget this. This is free. It just means you need to look around your church a bit more and go, who are some of the voices? Maybe use multiple voices with only one phrase. So maybe your 10-year-old says, "Fear not, I bring you good news of great joy." And then the 85-year-old says, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy." And then maybe you have someone in your congregation who speaks Spanish and they can say it, or French, or German. Use multiple languages. Maybe someone can sign it and it is silent. Use multiple voices. I think that it is so important to have one tradition, at least one, that is part of your Christmas Eve service. Traditions are so important. And for those people who maybe don't have traditions of their own, the church service tradition is very rich, very important. For our church, like I'm sure many, we always sing "O Holy Night" while we're lighting candles. Some churches always recite the Apostles' Creed or do the Lord's Prayer, pass the peace of Christ. Whatever it is that you do it every year so that it becomes tradition, and explain it. Because for some, this is the first time. They don't understand that this is a tradition. They don't really know the purpose or the point. Give instruction. If you're lighting actual candles, things like the person with the lit candle keeps the candle upright. The unlit is the one that comes in to get the flame. Explain those things. I think that every Christmas Eve service needs one moment. This one's a little tricky, and it can't always be manufactured, created, predicted. It could be a special song. It might be a monologue, a candle lighting, a scripture. There should be one moment that I refer to as a shiver moment. I'll tell you about my favorite shiver moment in a bit, but this moment is so important. Once you figure out what it is, you might want to move where it is in the service. And sometimes you will not know what this moment is until the practices have begun, until you have heard something sung or spoken, and all of the sudden you know, because shivers probably come up your back and you feel it. And then you'll know that's the moment. Then you need to figure out where that moment needs to go. Maybe it needs to be right before the message because you know that it will prime hearts for that message. Maybe it has to go almost towards the end because you know it will seal the moment and it'll drive whatever message you have a little deeper. Your Christmas Eve service, it needs to take people on a journey where they experience different emotions, joy, sorrow, where they laugh, where they experience warmth and nostalgia, where they hear hope. This journey should all be built around, and we've already heard this, Lori's talked about this, but about one main idea or one key line, one phrase that is reiterated in almost every element. So for example, maybe you're doing a not so silent night and the whole service is about peace in the midst of the chaos. You could talk about how so many of our nights in life are not silent, are they? When we go to work, it is not silent. But what does Jesus do and offer in the midst of the noise? Your service could be heaven and nature sing, and the whole thing is about celebration and praise, and you still can name the hard in the midst of that. Maybe it's silent night, holy night, and the whole service is about reverence. Maybe it's 10 little fingers and 10 little toes, and the service is all built around the humanity of Jesus. This main idea helps act as a guardrail for your planning. When you're choosing songs, there are lots of great songs, right? Lots of great scriptures, lots of great videos. If you have this main kind of big idea, that will help to to channel your choices. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of elements and it won't flow. You want to tell a story and be creative. Find those people in your church who are the creatives, who are the artistics. Make the story fresh by approaching it from a different perspective. I once did a monologue, and my perspective, my character was the innkeeper's wife. I just let my brain begin to imagine what would it have been like to be married to the man who turned away Mary and Joseph on the night they gave birth. What would it have been like for me to wake up in my comfortable, warm bed and realize that a young woman just gave birth in my barn? Add in language that makes it current and relatable. I remember while I was doing that monologue, part of what I said was that I woke up in the night and I thought I would just go check on the young couple and make sure that they were okay. And as I walked out, I heard the cry of a newborn baby, and I rushed in, and sure enough, there she was, this young teenage mom, and she had this sweet little peanut all wrapped up, and he was just the most perfect thing you ever did see. See, now when I see babies, I look at them and I go, oh my goodness, look at that little peanut. So by using that word, it makes it current, it makes it relatable, it takes away some of the formality of the story and makes it real. There are so many ways to be creative that cost nothing. 4 stools, right, on your stage, a type of reader's theater where each person that's sitting on a stool is wearing all black, and maybe they read the same scripture, but from 4 different versions, or again, 4 different languages. You can use backlighting. Could you have your stage actually be in the center and all your chairs are set up in a circle? Maybe you have a full band, but one year for Christmas, you only use 1 guitar. Brainstorm, and don't be afraid to try something that is out of the ordinary. Okay, those are some of the elements that I think should be in every service. Now for the rules. Rule number 1, I have 3 rules. Rule number 1, keep your service to an hour-ish. You have 1 hour, give or take. 1 hour and 5 minutes, it's fine. 1 hour and 15, it's likely too long. And hear me on this. You can have a service where every element that you have is incredible. High quality, moving, experiential, incredible. But if your service is an hour and a half long, it's probably too long. Too long for visitors who aren't used to church services. Too long for parents of little kids. Too long. Hear that? Doesn't matter if it was incredible, if it's too long. Number 2, rule number 2. Practice every element and each transition. Practice these, okay? Hear me. Make sure that people know where they are supposed to be when. These details matter. Nothing ruins the mood more than watching a person walk from the very back of the sanctuary all the way up to the front before they finally get to where they're supposed to be. It's like announcing the announcements. Like, please don't do this. Do not waste the minutes. You have 1 hour. Do not waste your minutes by watching people walk. Okay, hear me. Run through every element and idea. Why? Well, let me tell you. I was part of a service one time where at the end of the service, the great idea, and it was a great idea, was to invite people to come up. We had a number of people from a Catholic tradition. So we invited people to come up to the front to light a candle in memory or symbolizing the person that they were thinking about, praying about, or remembering, missing, whatever. Great idea. While this was going to be happening, the worship team was going to be singing this wonderful song. It's a great idea. We didn't practice it. Do you know what happens when multiple people walk to the front of your sanctuary during a quiet moment, pick up lighters, click, 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 click. Talk about ruining the moment. And all because we just didn't practice it. So practice. Say this is what we're going to do, but then actually run through it and ask 10 people to pretend you're the audience and come up and light a candle. Because if we had done that, we would have went, this doesn't work. This is not going to work. I was sitting on the stage. I was part of the worship team. It like threw me, the noise, because I was not prepared, because we didn't practice it. Practice every element. Make sure you have batteries in things, and stuff is going to light. And if it doesn't light, you've got a backup, and you have a mic that has extra batteries because something isn't going to work. And so think through those things. Rule number 3. You still with me? Hope so. Make it visitor / non-church goer friendly. For those guests who we call Creasters, right? We only see them at Christmas and Easter. First, they are guests. We want them to feel at home, and generally they don't. The atmosphere of church is not something they are used to, and so you want to tear down that barrier and make them feel as comfortable as possible. Probably some of your staff team or your worship team probably should be wearing jeans. You want to use some humor, show that you are actually fun people, that Christians aren't weird. Play a funny video. Don't do things or tell jokes that only your regulars will understand. Try to remove the barrier, or at least lower it just a little. Another way to do this is to throw in like a radio or a secular song. One Christmas, for example, I did a mashup of U2's In the Name of Love. I sang it together with Thou didst leave thy throne and thy kingly crown when thou camest to earth for me. But in Bethlehem's town was there found no room for thy holy nativity. In the name of love. What more in the name of love? Do we do this to be cool? Nope. We do it to be approachable and relatable. Okay, I am running out of time. I got to hurry this up. My list of great songs, okay? Sovereign Grace does a song called "O Come All You Unfaithful." This contains this twist on the words that's so powerful, and it names pain and sorrow. Stephen Curtis Chapman, from his album The Music of Christmas that was released in 1995, O Come, Emmanuel. First 2 minutes. And ransom captive Israel that mourns in lowly exile here. It just moves all the heartstrings. Such a good one. Singable congregations, Chris Tomlin and Paul Balash have lots of these that are mashed old with new, right? Joy to the world with joy, unspeakable joy. It's so good. And hark the herald angels sing with King of Heaven. I gotta tell you, my favorite shiver moment, because I've been saving it for you. So I'll do that really quick. Okay, Kristen?
Sure.
One Christmas Eve, a video had played. So the room was already dim light. There was music behind that video, which set the key. And from the back of the sanctuary, in the dark, a cappella, the song began. O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel. and you just heard this song, it just came over. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel. It was so meaningful and beautiful. We get to plan services that move people toward Jesus, the one who gives us reason to rejoice. May we see this task as a privilege and plan with joy and intentionality.